Hi there. In my last video, I talked about how it took me 20 years to forget composing, come back to composing, and to start again in my late 40s. In this video, I want to tell you what it was actually like for those first few years, and I can tell you that after that initial almost revelatory moment where I saw Shutterstock on the internet, and I realized that you can actually send music to libraries and make money from it. I wrote some terrible music, and it took me quite a while to get what I would say my production up to a reasonable level. Now, it was an interesting thing to come back to after, as I say, two and a half decades, in that I think my internal musical ear was there. I could hear what I wanted to produce in a fairly mature sort of way. I got decades of listening, decades of musical experience behind me. But translating that onto the DAW was a totally different experience. And I remember being very disconcerted by how difficult I found it. And I think it took me probably 6 months to a year of part-time work to actually get my production up to a level where I thought that I could reasonably send it into a production music library. And I did. I sent some big sort of orchestral tracks for a start to a library, and my first album was accepted with some tension cues, I think, if I remember rightly. I remember being in Barcelona, weirdly enough, finding out that it had been accepted, and that is a great moment. Getting your first album accepted by a library, and I thought, okay, well, this is good. This is a milestone, and I kept on writing, and I set myself a target of writing 2 tracks for production music libraries every single week. And I've done that for the last 7 years. I'm now on 700 tracks. And that was a punishing schedule for a start, because I was really slow. I was still working on my other work, though it did sort of peter out, and the two did sort of fade off into each other relatively quickly, which helped a huge amount. But I went through a period of about 3 years of churning out tracks, writing tracks out, writing stuff, getting it into libraries, with literally dollars coming in return. And that felt incredibly difficult, and it tapped into the whole 20-30 years before, where I sent off my CD in the previous video to the TV production library, and nothing happened from it. And you start questioning, you start doubting. There's no money coming in, and I almost, did I give up? No, I didn't almost give up, because I had such a conviction that it was the right thing that I was supposed to be doing. But it was really tough. It was really hard. I have a very supportive other half, financially and emotionally. Without her, I don't know whether I could have done it. Those 3 years were really hard. But after 3 years, I'd got 300 tracks or so in music libraries, and then I was sitting watching TV one day, and there was a sort of home design program on the BBC, sort of primetime BBC program, and I'm getting prickles at the back of my neck thinking about this. And I was watching something to do with the hot tub, and my ears pricked up. I thought, my God, that sounds familiar. What's that? And there it was. Well, the first time I ever heard a piece of music on the TV. I was stony broke. I'd done about 3 years of grinding at this, really without any reward. And there I was on primetime BBC, only for 30 or 40 seconds. Oh my God, it was incredible. I was very teary. I was very just like, oh my goodness. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to get paid for this, but this is sort of proof of concept. I've got into my music into libraries, so it's okay. I've now got some of my music on the BBC, so my music is being picked up and taken up. It naturally follows that if I can do that once, I can keep doing it, and the money will start sort of gradually coming in. And that is sort of what did happen. After that moment, it gave me a massive amount of impetus. It was year 3, I think. And through sort of year 3, 4, and 5, things really did start to ramp up. By that point, I've got 300, 400, 500 tracks in production music libraries. And I was getting regular placements and my royalty check was going up and up and up. And I achieved roughly a full-time income sort of in year 5-ish, I think. It's the middle of year 5 or thereabouts, something like that. And I have been super lucky in that at the moment, despite AI and despite the industry and everything, that is still going up. That may change, but I'm still writing and it's still going up. So why did I make these 2 videos? Well, I think as a middle-aged person, you get to the stage in your life where you think, well, actually, look, this is what I really want to be doing. Can I spend my time doing this? Can I make a living doing this? And my story is not unique by any stretch of the imagination, but the answer is, I think if you have a strong enough conviction, then yes, absolutely, you can and you should. And that's easy to say for me because I was in a fairly financially stable position when I started this, and it worked out for me. It may not do for everybody, and it's really not the most financially coherent and financially stable and predictable path to making money by any stretch of the imagination. But if you need to do this, you need to do it, and you need to do it before it's too late. And it can be done. It is possible through sync licensing, through creating large amounts of quality music for production music libraries. It is possible at the moment to create a full-time income writing your music, literally writing from a small home studio and writing what you want, where you want, and whenever you want, to a certain extent.